Hey, hello everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. I'm just going to start, Shashi. Okay.
All right.
All right. Hello and welcome to the TechGeek Virtual Boardroom on how to improve coding skills in real time. I'm your host Sukriti, and I'm so delighted to bring you this session today. So before we begin, striving for continuous improvement instead of perfection is a famous quote from Kim Collins. And this is true in the case of mastering coding skills as well. A little improvement each day will eventually lead to maybe significant results that a person is seeking. It is critical for programmers to work on improving their programming abilities in this era of constant improvements in the software industry. Upskilling, reskilling, and practice are just a few choices available for software professionals to keep up the rapid developments and advancements happening. To discuss this and much more, I have four knowledge powerhouses with me here for this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the four guests for today's conversation. Manoj Kumar, VP Developer Relations and Open Source from Lambda Test. Mohan Raj Selvaraj, Head Engineering from Protect.ai. Shashidhar Ramakrishnaiah, Head of Cloud Practice, Chief Architect, Factor Analytics. And Vinayak Ganapuram, Vice President Engineering, Crayon Data. Welcome to the discussion, gentlemen. I would request you to please go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us how excited you are for this conversation. Let's begin with you, Manoj.
Sure, thanks, Kurti. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. This is Manoj, and I work at Lambda Test as a developer relations, as well as I head the open source initiatives for Lambda Test. And I think as the title says, digital technology is very, very important given the post-pandemic era. And I'm so excited to discuss the trends that are happening in 2023.
Thank you, Manoj. Mohan, let's go ahead with you.
Hey, great. Happy New Year to everyone, first of all. And, myself, Mohan Raj Selvaraj, I'm head of engineering at Protect.ai. So we work in, mobile threat defense solutions. And we work with a lot of reputed banks and technologies. We use actually latest technologies. And we all started from scratch somewhere. We all started from zero at some point. So today, I'm all excited to understand from other panelists that what is their experience and expertise, and I'm happy to share the little bit of knowledge that I can transfer to.
Thank you so much, Mohan. Shashi?
Yeah, hello everyone. Excited to be here. Been in the industry for a long time. I've seen the software industry evolve from mainframes to client server to distributed technologies to all the latest and the greatest around cloud technologies, right? There's been so many transitions. I believe, right, while these transitions have happened, over this course of time, the basics remain the same, right? Whatever I learned as a programmer still stands good, and whatever the technologies that come along the way, whatever innovations that have happened, I think the basic fundamentals don't change. Happy to share some of my experiences, thoughts with all of you today. Look forward to this discussion.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Vinayak.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be part of this initiative. Actually, I was asking Sukriti what is meant by real time. And actually, she told that, we'll be sharing knowledge, all four of us together in real time. And that's how, we will learn together. And I think it's truly a wonder that we are all here today. And I look forward to learn from all the panelists. And it's going to be a power pack session where I think each of us will share with everyone what we have learned over the years, and look forward to learning with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vinayak. Okay, so now I think it's time for us to address the questions, the queries that I'm here for our audience, of course, who are watching us live on all the three live stream platforms. Okay, so to start with, let's address the necessity of the coding skills. Looking at the innovation, at the advancement of technology that's happening around, I think coding becomes the backbone of any development, any business that's happening these days. So I would want to discuss and understand that why is it necessary for developers to work on their coding skills at this rapid development era? wherein everything is like happening at a pace wherein it's almost next to impossible to kind of match it out there. So it's very important for them to look at it, but how and what makes it very important for them to look at in a certain manner with a certain perspective. So I think I'll begin with Vinayak. Vinayak, can you please start with what you have?
So I think actually technology is ever evolving, and it's difficult to keep pace with the sheer number of technologies and frameworks that are coming out. But I think, like Shashidhar said, I would like to pick a cue from what Shashidhar just spoke, in his introduction, which is like building the foundations. If you have built the right foundation, I think you can expand on those foundations really well. So I started programming in C language using a compiler on Unix, and that was my first introduction to commercial software. And that really changed the way I looked at programs, and it actually gave me a deep insight into how software is really built, right from starting with the smallest algorithm that actually we use every day without bothering about how it is actually built. And we are also at a time now where you'll actually not be given a VM to set up your software. I think gone are those days. Initially, we were bothered about how do we host in a data center, how do I scale it up. But I think now we are at a time where you don't even bother about what VM it runs on, or what cloud it runs on. We are bothered about the end outcome, and people are looking for software actually, or solutions that are plug and play and easy to use. I don't want to bother about how to run the software. I want to bother about running my business. That's how even each tech guy looks at it, and that's how even I look at it today.
Wonderful. Thanks, Vinayak, for that. Shashi, I'd move to you now.
Yeah, so just extending from what Vinayak said, right? It's all now, I think, the advent of digital and data natives, where everything is being monetized, right? Every moment is being monetized. Businesses are bringing in changes at a breakneck speed, and the nature of the business has gone global. Everything is digital, everything is accessible 24/7. There's no downtime at all in the systems now, right? So a lot of basic regular chores, as well as time-based chores, everything is digitized now. Very rarely we go to any brick and mortar kind of establishments, right? All of these changes are necessitating a different kind of construct for coding disciplines, right? So I think understanding the full import of how your programming is influencing the business, right? I think that awareness is extremely important. Like when we were growing up, it was primarily projects, it was all enterprise, it was all limited. As e-commerce came along, the volume and the impact got a significantly different meaning. Now with cloud scale, population scale, the consumer oriented systems, the enterprise, all of them are becoming so very interconnected, so very complicated. But if you do not really have that productized approach, like when I say productized, like earlier we were thinking products are different, projects are different, right? A lot of us are engaged in service oriented firms, right? We actually build things for our clients as per their requirements. While we build for those requirements, it's very, very critical to keep in mind that we have to have that productized thinking. Everything has to work like a clock. It has to be built for scale. It has to be built for maintainability. It has to be built for extensibility, adding new features. It should be built for reliability. It should run all the time 24/7. It should be built for managing failures, debugging the code quickly, and enhancements, new features to add, right? The whole paradigm has shifted to productized thinking versus a project thinking. So I think all of us will have to make that, we'll have to have that understanding of where your piece fits in the larger puzzle, right? Unless we develop an appreciation for that, our coding skills will obviously be limited to ensure that, oh, it works well, right? Working well is one aspect, right? I mean, but working for scale, working for different contexts, working for different types of scenarios, the coding skills assumes a lot more critical significance, right? So I think as developers, understanding what a productized thinking becomes fundamental, I think, from my perspective. So that's what I would like to share as a key, principle that you would like to look at. And there are so many examples all around us. I think it will help us, relate to what I'm saying. So that would be my, two words about the importance of this coding skills. Yeah.
Thanks, Shishida. I think it is very important to look at certain skills holistically when it comes to fulfilling the requirement of the business, of the job description, of the responsibilities that a person is looking at. I think some valid points made up here. I would now move to Mohan. Mohan, what would you like to add here to what Vinayak and Shishida mentioned?
Yeah, I would like to just extend what Shashidhar, emphasized specifically on the product thinking. Any developer who's going to start their career, anybody who's a beginner in the software development, they have to understand the basics of the programming that is necessary any which way. There is no two way around it. But one of the most important thing is a developer should understand the problem statement, right? And developers should be able to connect well with the purpose of the development, right? I believe if I'm going to develop a software, I'm going to be the first ever end user of the piece of software that I'm writing, right? So I have to develop for me before I have to develop for the world, right? So today we use almost anything and everything with technology, right? So we use mobile applications for almost every single thing, starting from commuting to the office, ordering foods and groceries. We are completely transformed in the way how we run our day-to-day demands and needs, right? So every developer should be able to apply themselves to the product that they develop in the process of actually learning the basics and fundamentals of the programming. As Shashidhar and Vinayak already emphasized on the cloud computing, the scale, and whatnot, the securities and everything that will come along the way. But for any developer, they should be able to connect well with what they try to do and what is the purpose of the business that we try to do.
All right. Thank you, Mohan. Manoj?
Thank you. What more I could add? I think answering last in the go around table questions has its pros and cons. Given the wonderful points already added by my panelists here, I think only one point to add, definitely plus one to all others points from Vinayak, Shashidhar, and Mohan. I think being able to code or understanding about why we are coding is always important. I have this quote that I remember, or whenever I speak to my whoever is looking forward to getting into IT, be it engineers or school students, there's only one phrase that comes to my mind. It says that being able to code allows you to bring your ideas to life, right? So that is very, very important, and that's what I always love about. And I think when I touched upon learning about C, I think definitely I've also started in that era of learning C, C++. All thanks to E. Balagurusami's book to learn about all coding. And I think before that, I started in school days with the programming language called Logo. I think that fascinated me in understanding, how things move around the computers and all that. I think that fascination towards, how something can be solved using programming and coding is very, very important. I think once we understand that and have a passion to solve any problem, I think coding skills can augment that and help you solve that problem, automate that problem, test that problem. For all of this, programming can be used.
Lovely. So Manoj, in continuation to what you've just spoken in terms of getting fascinated with the problems and then getting that passion onto your head to solve something, you are somebody who also looks at the developer relations in the market, right? You've worked with the developers in and out. I think you're the right person to help us understand the right the in-demand skills at this point in time, and what profiles do you think the businesses are looking at mostly, and the requirements precisely when it comes to skills. So just help us understand that.
Sure, definitely. This time I'm going first. Thank you for addressing that. So always there is the conversation about generalist versus specialist. I'm not getting into that, but I think as a developer relations, For those of you who don't know about the role, it's a role that matches the product, the technology, and the end users. And to the company, DevRel represent the community, and to the community, we represent the company. So that's how it goes. And in that way, we have the fortunate forums to reach out to developers, user community specifically. And in that way, yes, I've encountered a lot of those discussions with different set of peoples. I think to put it I think it's a very broad level question. Let me try to put it out in a user perspective, because end of the day, we develop such products so that the end users can use it. So as a user, if I'm looking at some product, the first thing first is, how am I knowing about the product? So I think definitely digital marketing strategy comes into picture on what are the skills that I'm putting forward to making sure the products are available to the users, like be it social media influencer marketing or SEO skills, all that aspects comes into picture. And then as a user, I would look at how safe is it to use your product, whether the data is getting leaked all over. So a lot of problems we are seeing around the industry. So I think data security, cyber security is very, very important. And I think thirdly, I would say the human computer interaction, because as I said, programming allows you to bring ideas to life. I think that human and then computer interaction is very, very important. By that I mean the UI and UX should be intuitive. The usability aspect, accessibility aspect is very, very important, right? So that's at a broad level, from marketing to human computer interactions to digital marketing. When it comes to the nitty-gritties of the engineering, I believe I think every company is a digital company, as as we've been talking about. I think data is a new oil. I think I've read somewhere, or new energy, as they say. I think being able to interpret that data, present it in a meaningful format, be it data science or data analyst, those skills are very important. And then not to forget the advent of AI. I think the recent things has been ChatGPT, which has been storming around all the internet. I think AI ML, being able to augment AI ML for our needs is very, very important. And then of course, cloud computing is there, being able to stream your services as the users get added, as a for example, Hotstar as an example. When there's an India-Pakistan match, we see many millions of people watch that. So how do we scale that on a cloud? And then of course providing a quality application. I think overall these trends are going to be still in demand in 2023. Just to summarize, I think digital marketing, human computer interaction, cyber security, data representation, then AI ML, and then cloud and quality. These are going to be in demand. There are a few technologies that I've been hearing about, learning about, but not got an actual chance to work on it. Those are metaverse, blockchain, etc., which probably my panelists will have some experience on it. So I'll just pass on to the next person.
Thanks, Manoj. I think a lot of important insights. I hope our audiences who are listening to us or watching us are making notes of what you're suggesting right now, because that's a long-term perspective, and you're actually explaining the current market trends of the requirement that the businesses are looking at. So thank you so much for that. I'll move to the next one. Shashi, you are leading the cloud practice, and you're the chief architect. I'm sure you have a certain vision, certain way of learning, right, that you plan for yourself or for your team, let's just say. And I think you're the right person when it comes to strategies as well, because now you're in that role wherein you can pass on your learning. So how do you enhance your learning strategy, and what would you exactly suggest to the people who are looking at, envisioning their, their potentials into putting their heart and brain into developing something new?
Thanks, Kriti. So essentially, I think having a broader understanding of the landscape that makes up this software ecosystem, right? I call it full stack, right? Full stack is one word that comes to my mind. Essentially being able to relate. In our earlier days, there was no compartmentalization, right? Somebody used to do we used to do both the programming language as well as the database coding, and we used to do UI, UX, everything, right? It was all integrated. Now over a period of time, compartmentalization happened and people started, focusing on particular area. Now I think, again, I feel there is a need for having a broader view of technologies end to end, right? So everybody has to know how a UI UX interface needs to be built. How does it integrate with middle tier? How does the API gateways work? How does that interface with the data systems? How does AI, ML, and BI related insights get integrated with the operational systems? So basically, it's having a broader understanding of operational systems, business systems, and relating the entire life cycle, right from your UI UX to middle tier to your databases to your AI ML to your reporting, all of that, right? It has, the individuals have to kind of have an understanding of that, and of course they can specialize in any given area, right, depending on their passion, right? But it's necessary that they need to have a good understanding of all of these skills, right? And that's what we advocate very strongly while they build specialization in all these various cloud platforms, right? Each one of the cloud platforms have their certifications. Now, that is the basic mandate that we expect from the individuals to kind of go towards, like cloud certifications that are hosted by each of this. Like there are various levels of certification, right from developer all the way till solution architecture, covering platform engineering and all of that, right? So understanding cloud, cloud is pay as you go, right? It's just not coding right, designing right, using the right serverless concepts to make sure that your compute costs are low, your processing, your storage costs are low, using the right, database. Getting a good flavor of the cloud is extremely critical. Apart from that, what I spoke about, right? Having a good UI UX background, the integration background, all of this will go a long way. So full stack, I find platforms such as LeetCode, right, extremely good, right? I think it exposes people to all kinds of patterns from a understanding standpoint. I think it's just a question of applying oneself to understand the various moving parts, and the basics, the fundamentals, like your data structures, your algorithms, all of that, right? Right from fundamentals of learning data structures, algorithms, all the way till understanding the programming language, the object-oriented principles, all of that, and trying it out. And I think there is no substitute for real hard coding. You have to put in, a lot of time the tendency to copy and paste. A lot of people do not even understand what is there in those lines of code, and they just copy and paste, and it is built with a certain construct, and probably 60-70% it might work also, but there are always those areas of failures, right? So people will have to understand every line of code, even though copy and paste is becoming very common, right? There is Google, there is Stackflow, everything is available now, right? Just do a search, you'll get a code snippet. But I think as a developer, that curiosity to do something on their own, write every line of code, should never get compromised. I think people should enjoy that. Object-oriented principles never go out of fashion. Solid principles, which are becoming extremely popular. The fundamentals of data structures and algorithms. All of this, I think, will go a long way. Full stack, cloud certifications, and all these fundamentals. I think, broadly speaking, these are the 3-4 things that I can suggest for any given individual who is looking at making his career.
Thank you so much, Rishi. I think that's a very definite guideline that you've given to people when it comes to making a choice, particularly in the long term. So thank you so much for that. I will now move to Mohan. So Mohan, we've been talking about how the entire upskilling system works. Why is it important, and things on those lines. But I think it's equally important for us to address the challenges that exists in the market, be it from the organization perspective or from the the candidate perspective. Help us understand the challenges that these days coders or organizations are facing.
Yeah, so specifically to talk about the organizational challenges for any product, it is always about, I believe in this triple P concept, where a product is your first P, then your process with help of people you always develop it, right? So people is one of the biggest assets of any product. You need to have the right set of people with the right set of skills. And finding the right set of people is a key challenge for any organization today, right? By profession, you can easily find the programmers. There are a lot of programmers who are really good in programming skills. Starting from the school days, people started picking up programming language. But once they land into a product company or organization, they one of the key challenges is the soft skill for the developers, right? Because all the developers all along their life, they associate themselves more towards the technology, but when it comes to collaboration with the team members, it is important to open up and always be open for feedbacks and inputs, right? Anybody who's a beginner, they should be able to learn something from their seniors and try to pick up the brain of someone who's already experienced and hands-on, right? One of the most important thing is for any fresher, we always start with training them with some senior, who is somebody who's doing it all along, right? So for any beginners, it is important to have the right soft skill, wherein they should be able to ask the right question. It is not about getting the right answer. So I used to tell my, the freshers always, first work on the right questions before try to understand any answers. Don't try to get the answers before getting the right questions. You have to spend a lot of time and energy into framing your questions. At the end, if a senior who's not giving you the right answer, it may not be the problem of the senior, it may be a problem of your question, right? Then the second thing for any organization today is the cost of the resources that we use. Starting from the cloud, the optimization of the computing that we use, and the cross-skilling, right? So as a developer, we always work on the single task that is assigned to us, but we should always focus on the the costing of the computing as well as the user experience. That is very much important, right? It is not for the manager that we work, it is for the end user that we work, right? So we should be able to actually apply ourselves as an organization. We expect people, those who can actually apply themselves into the problem statement, which is for the end user. Then finally, from the organization standpoint today, after the pandemic, almost every organization started taking the security as one of the serious note, right? So every company now investing a lot of energy and time into cybersecurity, and it has to actually start from the developer. A developer should be able to write a program which can actually withstand any sort of cyber adversaries that we see across the globe, right? So even though there are tools and frameworks available in the market, the developer should be able to understand the fundamentals of cybersecurity. And one of the final challenge for the organization, I'd say, is the pseudo understanding. That is something I would call it actually new age challenge today. Even someone quoted about the Chat GPT. Last week, one of the fresher who came to me, and one of the common challenge that we were discussing on the floor, he came up with a solution. He said, "This is what is prescribed in Chat GPT." I asked him, go back and read further about that, right? And you first understand the fundamentals of that, then we will discuss about the solution, right? One of the biggest challenges, people are actually getting overwhelmed with the kind of resources available in the globe, right? You go to YouTube, you find something, and that is not the solution for you. That is the recommendation for you. Copying, pasting source code is actually okay. If Stack Overflow is actually down, not all my developers will go out for coffee, right? That is the state of the culture that we have today. That is okay. That is absolutely okay. But when you find a sample that is not your solution, right, you have to go back and read further about the fundamentals and basics and applicability of the samples that you get, right? The pseudo understanding is one of the common challenge with the new age developer, and that is mainly because of the ease of access of resources. Because back in 2013, when I started my career, I used to actually read about the algorithms in actually paper books, right? Then I go back and try to develop a sample application. But today, if I'm going to give a task to one of my fresher, within 30 minutes he'll come back, and most likely he would have downloaded some sample application from GitHub, right? That culture is something which is actually toxic for anybody who's going to start from scratch, because fundamentals are going to never change, as Shashidhar already mentioned. When he started his career, he started with framework, and today we are in cloud framework, right? And the fundamental is always about the understanding the basics, and that's what the organizations are actually expecting. Now, from the standpoint of a developer, the challenges is actually upskilling. That is one of the buzzword in the market. Like everywhere we go, we see this upskilling. We get a lot of advertisements about upskilling, because most of the developers who are like in the midterm category, they are actually stick to one particular programming language or technology, and they are actually more into a comfort zone. They don't try to do something different. There is something new coming in the market. They are not ready to explore. So upskilling and cross-skilling, I would say, because as a developer, you should be able to understand how your product is actually marketed, right? You should be able to spend time with your marketing team and your advertisement team, and how your UI UX is working, right? For me, developing a product is not just about the development of a source code. So for a programmer, cross-skilling and upskilling is one of the challenges that they have to address in the new era of development today. And when we talk about the other challenges, wherein now developers are expected to actually go about and find the other domains as well. Like you are working on a single domain, right? You should be able to understand what is happening in the cybersecurity domain, right? And you should be able to keep yourself updated as well. There are a lot of cybersecurity incidents happening across the globe. And let's say I'm developing a mobile application which is focused only for a grocery pickup and delivery. I should be able to understand what is happening with the data that I'm collecting and I'm transferring over the internet, right? So for developers, it is important to understand what is happening across the different domains. For instance, cybersecurity, for instance, the cloud native way, how the scaling is happening. So now the world is actually open. The resources are actually easy for anyone to access, but it is all how we are going behind that. And given all these challenges, with the right set of passion towards what we do and right set of commitment, how we are doing it, anybody can actually overcome all these challenges. When we talk about challenges, challenges are actually the gateway to the possibilities, right? As long as we have certain problems, there is certain possibilities are there, right? So I believe everybody should be able to overcome all these challenges that we are talking about today, and which is very much possible with the advancement of technologies that we have in the market.
So, Mohan, what you are suggesting is to our developers, the entire, the profession, the candidates, they need to deep dive before even finalizing onto any reskilling or upskilling process that you're looking at.
Exactly.
I would second that. Also, the portion wherein you mentioned about, particularly about the toxicity of people not learning the right thing and just coming across with the references. I think that's something that's relevant across domains and not just for the techies, because I think a lot of pseudo learning and a lot of pseudo knowledge awareness is happening in the market, and people rather than sitting and thinking in a manner which will drive the analytics, they just pick that up and they think that this can be resolved in a similar manner when the problem is theirs, which is not relevant actually. This is the process wherein the entire IQ comes into play, and then you have to think through and understand that how this is even relevant for you to even opt out for. So I think very valid point made here, Mohan. Thank you so much for that.
Actually, I would like
Now,
to add.
yes, Vinayak, please go ahead.
I would like to add to what I think Mohan Raj said, and which I actually experienced firsthand. And I think it's a far more. I think you talked about being able to pick up pseudo concepts and applying them and saying actually can I solve this? I think what I've seen in the recent past, and I'll take some examples. So especially when anyone wants to hire, freshers to their team. They'll put up all these, data structure challenges, coding challenges, on various, these competitive platforms. And in our experience, we have seen for the last 2 years actually that most of the students are able to crack even the difficult problems. And I was trying to understand how they're able to do it. And I said, okay, look, have you set the test too low, or they're too smart for our problems? But I think these are the problems that actually even I cannot solve today if I have to sit and I'm given like 20-30 minutes. And then when we actually did a detailed interview of those candidates, a lot of them actually memorized those problems, and they were able to answer like line by they were able to actually put it exactly like they would copy paste from somewhere. And the revelation was that people are not focusing on in the foundation. They're not looking to learn the underlying technology, really understand the problem, so that they can actually solve a similar problem in another context. They're trying to understand, basically look at the problem. Here is the solution. I'm going to reproduce this as it is, and I'm going to get full marks. But the learning, the real learnings, building that foundation, understanding how this problem relates to other problems, how can I apply it in other walks of life, in other in a problem that I come across, I think that is missing. And just to build on what Mohanraj said, which is like, you have a lot of resources. I think learning in technology or scaling in technology has become a lot more difficult earlier, because you don't have access to as much of information as you have today, and also the resources. And with ChatGPT and Stack Overflow and everything, I think the ability to differentiate and pick up what you need will stand out. And I think the amount of curiosity is actually is really less in folks, because you're getting a solution right off your first search. Why would you become curious to actually know anything? So I think being curious and and sticking to building foundational skills is really important. I think only then you'll be able to use all the newest technologies. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for folks to succeed or scale or sustain their career in a meaningful way.
So Vinayak, I think there's a problem that exists across generation is getting shortcuts, right? They don't want to actually go the right way, which might be lengthy, but will give you the right output. But everybody wants to take a shortcut and just be there, be it their career, be it their, the basics that they're looking at in life. And getting our basics right is the foundation of what we look at further, the progress that we are looking at. And I think that is very important for people, the Gen Z, the millennials, to understand that it's not about the shortcut, but getting your basics right, which will build the further foundations for you to enhance and build up your career later on, 10 years, 12 years later. You will still have those basics solid then and there, and then you build up your career there. So
And I
I
think
think
people also
that's
forget, just to add on to what you said, I think people always forget that the first 10 years is always easy in any industry, but people forget
exactly.
about the last 10-20 years, which become very, very difficult to sustain and to scale. And when you build these foundational skills, and when you approach your learning in the right way, in the right method that is prescribed, you can do that. But if you take shortcuts, you're looking
Absolutely.
for short-term wins, you will win definitely in the first 10 years or 5 years, but then it's just a downhill.
And I think it becomes stagnant also. So these shortcuts
Yes, yes,
become
definitely.
stagnant after some time, and it is absolutely irrelevant in the future. So I don't think those shortcuts or those momentary wins of you to get onto your career and enhancing your career path would make any sense. With this continuation, Vinayak, we'll talk about the much buzzword called low code, no code, and help us understand the relevance and how it is actually helping businesses right away.
I think low code and no code, these are terms I think definitely known to everyone, but I'll just clarify for the benefit of everyone so that we are on the same page and we operate in that on that. So no code is actually you get a you get use some solution which fits your which solves your problem primarily, it solves your business problem or the problem that you have at hand, and you're able to use it as it was offered by the creator. Low code is actually a solution where you might need to make some changes to be able to use it for your situation. It could be actually I would say the cloud platforms are actually a low-code solution. You get to use all the hardware, you get to use all the infrastructure with very little coding. You don't have to really struggle towards doing something. So that's that's low code and no code. Now I think before we actually get to choose the low code or no code solution, it's important to have the right understanding of the problem. Okay. And as tech leaders, and I think even I evaluate what are the low code solutions, what are the no code solutions, because you want to get to market as early as possible. And I think it fits appropriately in that context, because like all of the other panelists have also told, there are a plethora of solutions, products available. Now which one you choose, how it fits your whether it really solves your problem. And I think we should also have a view towards cost. Is it going to be cost prohibitive, or actually is it something that is sustainable in the short term and in the long run? Is it a one-time thing, or is it a many-time thing? Do I need to do this every time? I think these are some of the factors one should keep in mind when they think of this low code and no code solution. And but when you want to evaluate, I think it is very important to understand what's the domain that you're working in when you're evaluating a possible solution. Understand your domain really well. And it's also important to understand how your business works, though most of the techies actually would not agree with this, saying I only worry about my problem, what I'm going to solve. But as you scale, it's very important to understand how all the levers in the company work together, or how all the teams work together to actually produce one output. Like I think Mohanraj spoke about, or I think it was Manoj actually spoke about, that you need to also know what is digital marketing, how your company actually advertises themselves, or actually how they reach out to people, how they make their product known to everyone. I think it's important to know all these things, because when you build, when you know these things, you are able to solve for that particular problem. For example, let's say you want to do a marketing campaign for reaching out to million audience. Now when you're spending so much money to reach out to million audience, your page better load in 2 seconds or 1 second. If you're not able to do that, then all the marketing money is lost, right? So have a 360-degree view of how your business really works, right from front to back, right from somebody actually working on the product idea, the funding that it actually gets, how it is being built, who are the team members building it, how it is going to be supported, how it is going to be deployed, how we are going to scale it, how we are going to monitor it, how we are going to manage all of that. I think all these things are really important. And so once you know that, I think you can easily pick a solution from the market which will help you solve the problem. In fact, I would also encourage people to write down what is the understanding of the problem, and then write down the solutions. Because a lot of times, we work on the problem, but we don't really solve the problem. And I've seen this with a lot of developers. They'll be working on something, but it doesn't solve the problem. And the definition of done varies with each team, each member. So having that definition established and having the outcome clearly stated is fundamentally important. Once you have had this basic sorted, you can look at low code, no code, any of those things. And I'll pick up some examples of no code, which I think all of us have used, and I'll try and see if I can resonate with the developer audience, with the with the business guys, and also with marketing folks. So some of the best no code examples that actually I have seen is WordPress. It's powering 30% of the internet even today, 32% or maybe 35%. It's something actually that you can go to any of the providers, put your domain name, choose a template, that's it, done. You can start writing content, and your content is actually visible to the internet at the next moment. It also has a lot of SEO features built in. You don't have to really work on anything there. It really comes out of the box. It tells you how to do SEO. It tells you how to market your site. It actually gives you access where you can run a marketing team, where you have the right access control. One is the editor, other is an approver. All of those things are actually put in place. So that's one example I would say, which is really there today. Even today, we say that it's buggy, it has vulnerabilities, it's on the top list of products that actually gets gets victim most of the times. It is popular, so it will be definitely, people will definitely try to hack it around. That's the single reason, right? So it better be, so we better learn how to work with it. That was one example for the marketing folks and the business folks. One example I would pick up on the no-code example is Actuator, which is actually a simple plugin that you get in the Java world. You just go and say, I want to add this plugin, and it lets you monitor your, your service health. It tells you how your systems are connected. Is it able to connect your backend systems really well? Is it broken? And it also tells you what is the CPU usage. If you want to take a thread dump, you can use that. If you actually want to monitor the disk usage, you can also do that. All of that actually without writing a single line of code. You just put some configuration, literally you just add that plugin, and the inbuilt configuration gives you a lot of these capabilities out of the box. And other no-code example that will appeal most of the entrepreneurs is Shopify. So Shopify is a great example of being able to actually put your own e-commerce front on the internet without writing a single line of code. You go to Shopify, sign up for your domain, put your catalog out there, choose the images, put the content, you're ready. Put the pricing, taxation, all that. In fact, it also helps you when you put your country code. It tells you what kind of taxing structure you will actually get. All of that without writing a single line of code. And it's a great example of actually how an entrepreneur, without knowing any technology, can build their business online, can scale their business, I think going by the 2022 stats, I think they had almost 2 million merchants who had their own personalized Shopify storefront. That's a huge success. And I think a few years back, we would not even know about that. And Shopify also has another angle. I'm just moving on to now some low-code examples. I'm also conscious of the time that we have. So Shopify also allows you to customize certain things, which don't come out of the box, so that you can actually modify some of the things on UI. You may not look like the look and feel. You may want to modify a little bit and see how it appeals to a wider audience. You may want to capture certain things differently. You may want to capture more data. You may want to show some other pop-up for your audiences. So all of these things are available out of the box. And there are also other developer platforms like AppSmith. I'm not sure if you heard of AppSmith. It's a platform that lets you build websites, and they have like templates for each category. Like they have a template for blog, they have a template for e-commerce, they have templates for many other categories, where you can just go and write very less code, and a website is ready with the right backend data store, because it also has the ability to actually pick up a data store that you want. Let's say you want to use a Mongo database. It says, hey, pick up Mongo, and you are ready. If you want to use a RDBMS, you can say, I want to pick up a Postgres, and it has connectors built in right from that platform. You don't have to literally do a lot, and in 5 minutes, literally your website will be ready. And if you want to customize, you can actually, there are very great tutorials where you can go and say, I want to customize my homepage layout, or I want to change the way my cart looks, or I want to people check out, or I want to change the way people add address. So all of these things are available without doing a lot of work. The next example that actually I would pick up is Metabase, wherein today we use tools like Power BI and I think Tableau to some extent. But Metabase, I think, has come a long way, where if you want to change certain things, you can change, but it gives you the ability to connect to many underlying database systems and enable reporting for your entire business people, even technology guys, where they can use it to look at various metrics, which was not possible previously without coding. This comes right off the platform.
So Vinayak, in the interest of time, let's quickly have a look if we have any questions from the audience, and if we can quickly pick them up. Okay, so sure. There's this question from Indrajit. He says that what approach we can take to learn fast and more productive for the project working as a consultant. Guys, who wants to pick this up?
For the task, is it?
Okay. Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, please.
Sure. So he's asking about the approach that, what approach he can take to learn faster and, being more productive for the project, he's working for as a consultant.
I would say networking is the easiest and always try to pick up the brain of someone who's already expertise and established in the same domain. Let's say something, if you're trying to do which is very new to the market, then you have to find resources from the online and try to build on top of it. But for most of the tasks that we do, there are helps available around us. It's about reaching out the right people with the right question. That is one of the fastest way, I would say.
To
Yes,
add on that.
please go ahead, Manoj. Yes.
I think as a consultant, I worked with ThoughtWorks for a couple of years, so definitely can put in your shoes and understand as a consultant, we have our day-to-day priorities. I think what helps in really learning is, I think pair programming, if that's, I think someone talked about it already. I think pair programming will definitely help you understand or to learn fastly if you're, beginner into some technologies and you're already pairing with someone who's experienced in that. I think definitely that could be one strategy apart from all other, plethora of forums that we have where you could learn online. I think the other thing that I could, add upon as a learning strategy, which Shashidhar added in the beginning of the discussion, was around open source. I think open source is often overlooked in Indian ecosystem. I think we are definitely coming up with a lot of open source tools, but I think learning in the open source space itself is a huge learning. It might be intimidating for beginners, but I think once you get over it with a couple of initial commits, I think the learning that you get is immense. I think if you're comfortable with what you code, like say if you're an intermediate in any language, I think the first step that you make to go ahead and commit in public, I think after that, the learning that you will get from others reviewing your code, you might think that's the best code that we ever written. Probably to someone else's eye, it might be not that efficient. So the learning that you get through by a review process, is immense, and I've learned that a lot in my career. So I think probably hopefully that will help you as well.
One thing I want to add. So essentially, see, one is if you are given a problem statement and if you have been asked to code, right? First is getting your thinking process going right? Writing pseudocode, right? Writing documentation. We used to do this earlier, right? Nowadays, people just tend to get on to coding right away, right? But I think if you're able to, document, right? What, how we are going to, design the system, how we are going to actually envision the modules, objects, what have you, right? It makes it easier for you to code it in the language that you want to code. First and foremost, I think the fundamentals of thinking through the problem, designing your code structure, your data structures, your algorithms, all of that will be very, very critical, right? Once you get that basic understanding of how your software is going to solve a given requirement, I think coding becomes the second step. And I think a lot of inputs were given in terms of consulting the right person. And GitHub is also one fantastic repository, right? There's so much that's there in GitHub. You can access some really good coding libraries there. But just to quote some experience, right? The Japanese, one of the clients there, when we were actually building something for them, they insisted on complete pseudocode before anybody begins coding, right? So if you were to look at 100 days for any given effort, 80 days used to be spent in just creating this pseudocode and getting everything ironed out, thinking through the requirements, how they're being realized. And then the remaining 20% was used for development and testing. So different approaches, but I think we used to write. I mean, earlier computers itself used to be a luxury, right? People used to write on a piece of paper, right? But I think those kind of practices, writing, ability to think through a design and articulate how to solve a problem, writing algorithms, writing data, understanding the data structures, all of that will go a long way. And then I think converting that to any given language will be fairly straightforward. I mean, given the amount of help that you can get, right? Talking to your peers, talking to some experts, and also the various repositories that are out there.
I think, Shashi, I have a very, very closely related question by Sparsh here, who's asking how can we get started and contribute towards open source projects and how will it help in job profile? I think Manoj, you are the right person to probably answer this.
Sure. I think the moment you think about how to start contributing, you already taken step 0. So congratulations. I think the step 1 is ideally finding out what is that you want to get in really. Is it probably an open source? I think right now in engineering, we use a lot of open source libraries. Earlier used to be the days where open source libraries were avoided, especially around the fintech domains. But even now, they've all embraced using open source libraries. So if you're anyone who's working in any domain, regardless, and if you're coming across any open source tools that you're already using in your engineering, workflows, probably pick those tools and see how that really works, because you're using that as an end product and it really works for you and it solves your problem. So then why don't you look at the source code and it's available, right? Open source is all about that, right? Having your source free and you're able to, you have the ability to modify the code. So take a look at it. And once you figure out, okay, this is the library that I think, I can go ahead and make some improvements. I think first thing first is to look at GitHub issues. I think usually the maintainers of the project would label their issues as good first issues or, easy to solve bugs. It could be as easy as changing a grammatical sentence in a documentation, right? So every contribution in open source counts, like every drop in the ocean, right? So it adds up to different things that you can do. So right from documentation to a large piece of code really matters, and I think in that way you could get started with open source. And once you understood the documentation and once you made some small initial good first issues accomplished, I think you can step into some larger issues where you feel like pairing with, I think a lot of open source libraries works in different way, but I think it's in most of the ways that I see, definitely they are welcoming. They welcome new developers. They treat you as if they are working with you in a full-time job. And I've learned personally a lot of coding in that space. As I mentioned earlier, the one fact that people think a lot around contributing to open source is that intimidating factor, the fear of being judged in the public, because once you put your code out there, it's always there. So even if I look at the code that I written 10 years ago, I blame myself, like, okay, is this what I've written? So that happens. So I think it's just a couple of commits, and once you get past that, it should be pretty easy.
I would like to add one more thing here.
Yeah.
One is about actually contributing to the existing repositories. Another one is actually become part of the forums available. Even answering certain questions in the Stack Overflow will help. There are a lot of challenges that we face as a developer, and most of the solutions we try to take from Stack Overflow. I've seen like 80% of the developer, they pick up solutions from Stack Overflow. But when you are actually finding the similarities of the challenges that you try to address, right, you can just comment. You don't even have to write a paragraph. Just giving a lead to someone to fix the problem will help, right? That serves the community. Communities are built. One of these simple examples is when we take interviews these days. If someone goes more than 5 years experience, one of the simple questions that we ask: what is your Stack Overflow? The grade today. What is your score on this Stack Overflow.com? Because most often the developers who are just copy pasting, they don't go back and contribute back, right? Someone who's taking the right step to contributing back to the community for sure will help the juniors in the future, right? So that is the place you can even begin with, even before creating your own repositories of open source.
All right, so the clock is showing already 1. Before I wrap up, a quick round of closing remarks from each one of you. Shashi, let's begin with you.
Yeah, I think I wish you guys all the very best in your programming career. There's nothing nothing more exciting to see building something and seeing it work, right? I mean, nothing more exciting. This is where the rubber meets the road, and I think this area of this thing work will never fade away. It's an evergreen area, and learn the right basics, have fundamentals, and enjoy the experience. And I'm sure there's so much to learn and do, and with the pace of change, you'll always find something exciting to pick up and learn. So I wish you guys all the very best.
Thank you, Shashi. Manoj?
Sure. I think I just wanted to leave with one quote that I always look up to from Martin Fowler, a well-known scientist. He's been working at ThoughtWorks. So he says that any fool can write a code that computer can understand, but good programmers write a code that humans can understand. So good luck to your journey. Write a code with an empathy. And just understand that if you are in someone's place, they should be able to understand what you've written. It's just not just for the sake of building products. So once you have that fascination and passion towards what you're building and seeing your ideas, getting live and being used by a lot of other people, I think everything others will fall in place. So good luck.
Thank you, Manoj. Mohan?
Yes, so I started with the same thing. Like, I always believe whatever the coding that you're going to write, you're going to be the first ever end user. You're going to be the exclusive end user of your own product. So always do it for you before doing it for the world, even for your manager. Don't do it just for the manager, just for the sake of the task that is assigned to you. Build something for the world, and always make sure that you accept what you do. And we always learn from our mistakes. So make a lot of mistakes, make a lot of really mistakes, and you can learn only from the mistakes. And coding is just like solving a puzzle or playing a game of chess. So it is going to be an exciting journey for any budding the developers who is watching this. I wish best of luck for anyone who's going to pick up the programming as a career for them.
Thanks, Mohan. Vinayak?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just one thing I would like to actually add is I think open source, we don't have to wait for open source to really, do open source. I think it can begin with the org, in the org itself. I've seen a lot of, developers, they don't really document their code. And I think to what Manoj said, actually, I think is really true. I would actually, meaning even before getting there, I would say, please, have empathy towards the other devs who are going to review the code. And when somebody gives a review, be open to take that feedback, because that is where actually you will learn. And if you're able to follow some of the practices of open source within your org, I think you're all set to do open source. I've seen a lot of folks, they don't like feedback. Actually, I would really thank the person who's ready to give feedback, because somebody is putting their extra time and going over and about to tell you something which you may not be comfortable to hear. And I think it means a lot. So I have that approach, open mind, to take feedback, and I think you're all set to learn.
Thank you so much, Vinayak. So building your basics right, networking, and of course not pseudo learning are some of the takeaways from this session, folks. If you want to be a successful programmer, implement these suggestions we discussed in this discussion to sharpen your coding skills. And I think no advice is better than what comes out from the horse's mouth, the real time that we quote from our experts here. I will come back to you with another virtual session on January 20th, 2023 from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Till then, stay tuned to TechGig for all the latest tech updates. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Bye.